And welcome back to another episode of Dogs on the Couch, where everybody's allowed to have an opinion. It does not matter if you played the game you are watching. So you're allowed to have an opinion as well. Let's get into it. This past Sunday, we had the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs against the Cleveland Browns. Needless to say, Browns lose yet again. I would say in spectacular fashion, but they've kind of been losing all year in spectacular fashion. So at this point, it's kind of like, we've seen this movie before. we know exactly what this is. Kind of one of those things at this point. So this video, I wanted to just do the breakdown of the game, and then I'll do a separate video kind of discussing where we may end up going from here, as well as foolish thoughts that are perpetuated by the Cleveland Browns media about the quarterbacks, about the coach, about the GM, the owner, etc. We'll do that in a separate video. Here, we'll just break down the game. Okay, so very first drive for Kansas City, the defense holds. The defense actually stops Kansas City, and Patrick Mahomes on their first drive can't really ask for much more from the defense. Immediately when we get our first chance to try to possess the ball, Kansas City punts and Prochet muffs the punt. So we don't even get a chance to actually possess the ball right after the defense holds on the first offensive drive by the Kansas City Chiefs. So after Prochet muffs the punt, that ends up leading to a Juju Smith-Schuster touchdown. I don't credit that to the defense, and here we are yet again fighting from behind, putting ourselves behind the 8 ball. And the defense honestly had nothing to do with Prochet muffing the punt. At this time, when Winston's trotting out, because we getting ready, we've got the kick. Luckily, we didn't muff the kickoff after they scored. So Winston is trotting out on the field, and they put the person name up, give a couple of stats, facts about him or whatever, what have you. And the stat they gave about Jameis Winston was he has the most giveaways since week 8 with 11. So, interceptions and fumbles. So he got the most giveaways since week 11, since week 8, which is when he took over as the starter. He has the most giveaways with 11. Okay. So we send Jameis Winston and our offense out there. Offense that people were once calling prolific. When we beat the Baltimore Ravens, they were so hype about it. Okay, offense doesn't do anything. Yet and still, when we do punt and the Chiefs get the ball back, our defense holds. Can you believe it? Like, the defense holds. They stop Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. Not putting no points on the board right now on our watch. Great job, defense. So we get the ball back with about 1 minute and 35 seconds left in the first quarter. And what do you know? Jameis Winston throws into double coverage. Ball gets intercepted. Now, it appeared to be double coverage. I think one of the players after the game, the Kansas City player, I think he had came out and said that initially he didn't even see the pass. But in the midst of him running, he kind of, I guess, looked up at the jumbotron and saw that Winston had threw the ball, and so he turned in that direction, and bam! What do you know? I got an interception. However you dice it, it's yet another interception, yet another giveaway by Jameis Winston. However, the beauty of this is that the defense actually holds. So there were no points that were created off of this abysmal turnover. Thank goodness. Great job, defense. You'll start to notice a trend with the defense. Okay, so when we get the ball back, we get a chance to try to do something. We get a holding call on Wyatt Teller on 3rd and 5, where Winston is kind of being flushed out of the pocket because protection's not holding up well the same way that the protection wasn't holding up well pretty much all year long. And certain people, like my guy Quincy Carrier, was trying to make it seem like, well, when Jameis was inserted, he would just do certain things that made the blocking so much better. Now, are there ways to manipulate the pocket, move in the pocket, or not move in the pocket, or climb the pocket, that does help the guys block for you? Yes, that's very true. However, it can't fix a terrible offensive line. Like it'll do a little bit of patching here or there, but that's like putting a Band-Aid on a hole in a boat. Like eventually the water's going to start to seep through and you're back to a sinking ship. Like it's not, putting that Band-Aid on there is not doing anything for real. It's just creating a disguise. That's all it's doing. It's distracting, moving your attention to something else as opposed to addressing what the real problem is. So yep, we end up getting a holding call on Wyatt Teller, and of course drive ends up getting stalled out. So somewhere around the 13-minute 50-second mark, somewhere around there, on first down for the Kansas City Chiefs, it's notable that Myles Garrett almost intercepted Patrick Mahomes on that first down play. Great job, Myles Garrett, a guy who could easily say, I don't want to play. We're not playing for anything, so I'm not going out there. I'm checking it in for the season. So good job, Myles Garrett. And what do you know? The defense actually holds again. So this is about 3 or 4 drives now where the defense have held each and every time. And again, this is against the defending Super Bowl champions, Patrick Mahomes. Like this is, you know what I mean? As well as Travis Kelce and Kareem Hunt's, homecoming. You know what I mean? Like, so of course there's going to be a little bit of added boost, for those guys to perform well, coming back here to play against the Browns. So defense holds again, and at this point, I jotted down in my notes that I was just thinking to myself, like, man, offense has had the ball quite a few times here. When will they actually, do something? So we get the ball back. We still don't really do anything. And on a 3rd and 4, Jameis Winston, with an opportunity to convert, throws the ball in the dirt. Terrible pass, and doesn't even give Jerry Jeudy a chance to make a play there. The next drive, unfortunately, it's a Patrick Mahomes and Kareem Hunt drive. They end up scoring a touchdown. At the end of this drive. Me personally, I still don't necessarily fault the defense for this, because the defense had come up with about 4 consecutive stops, and our offense just kept giving the ball back to Kansas City. So, I mean, eventually they're bound to score in some facet if you just keep giving them the ball. I mean, at some point, it's bound to happen. Now here we are with a 4th and 1, because of course we get the ball back after they score. So here we are on a 4th and 1 with about 3 minutes and 30 seconds left in the second quarter. Instead of what I believe we should do all the time on 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1 is just QB sneak it. To me, that's football 101. QB sneak it. And I would keep doing that until I get stopped like 2 or 3 consecutive times on the QB sneak, and then I'd look into doing something else or trying to branch a trick play off of that. But 3rd, 4th and 1, I'm going with the basics. I don't think my team is good enough at this point to be doing anything special. I don't think the team is good enough to be trying to do anything special. Let's just keep it basic, and try to win doing the basic football 101 things. However, on this 4th and 1, and mind you, it's 3 minutes 30 seconds left to go in a half. Patrick Mahomes is standing on the other sideline. So ideally, what you want to do on this 4th and 1 is you would like to do 2 things. You would like to convert as well as keep the clock running. Because if by chance you do end up going down here and scoring, you want to score with limited time left in this first half, because we all know Patrick Mahomes can lead a drive and score in 13 seconds or less. So ideally, that's what you would like to do. You would like to convert as well as keep the clock running. Instead, on this 4th and 1, we decided to drop back, throw a pass, and it was a dropped interception, basically. Could have been an interception. The ball ended up, being dropped, however, which naturally gives Patrick Mahomes the ball back with about 3 minutes left before the half. One of the things that I noticed during the drive that Kansas City was having right before half, it was about 1 minute and 43 seconds left to go in the first half. And there was like a cut scene where they cut to Jameis Winston being talked to on the sideline. And in my opinion, he just looked like he had lost all of the confidence. He's a very confident guy. He speaks of an unwavering faith, a lot, which is very respectable about him. He's a great person, very great person. But I'm just speaking about playing quarterback in the NFL, not necessarily about him as a person. I try to just keep everything strictly sports related. So to me, he just looks like he's lost his confidence. And if you ask me, that is a major part of his game, the confidence, because it seems like any throw that it seems like that's a part of his thing. Like sometimes he may be too confident in himself. So the fact that he would have a look like that, like he's lost his confidence, like he's just like, oh my God, like I can't get it right. What's going on here? Just looking down on himself, that worried me, concerned me heavily. So fast forward to about the 14-minute, 46-second mark of the third quarter. Cleveland Browns have the ball, and you have a missed throw by Jameis Winston. Again, like I said, it was concerning me the way he was looking towards the tail end of that first half. We get a missed throw by him. Nick Chubb ran almost like a sitting route where he just kind of went a couple yards out, turn right around, make yourself available to the quarterback. And in this simple throw that's literally from here to there, like it's just nice little simple throw here to there, pitch and catch, like you do in the front yard. The throw is off target. It goes off of Nick Chubb's hands into the defenders. And we have another interception. Unfortunately, Chiefs end up scoring off of this particular turnover, off of this particular interception. And at this point, I jotted down in my notes that the feeling that seemed to be creeping in, at least for me. The feeling was exactly how it felt when Deshaun Watson was the quarterback. Felt the exact same way. In fact, the only difference was probably Watson wasn't really just throwing interceptions all like that. Offense looked terrible like how it looked, but at least you could take away the interception. At least we weren't throwing interceptions. So at this point, there's only kind of the 2 of the 3 touchdowns that were scored. The defense was put at a disadvantage, so I can't really put that on them. And even the time that they weren't technically at a disadvantage, the offense didn't do anything to help the defense out. Like even just try to give the guys a rest, for doing a good job at stopping Patrick Mahomes and that offense. So like I say, Chiefs end up scoring, and then the feeling overcomes you, where it's just like, wow, this is the same thing. You sure that's not Deshaun Watson out there? Like, I mean, it's like, wow, like what how are we back here? So after the Chiefs score, we get the ball back, and very unfortunately, Nick Chubb fumbles. Now, only reason I'm not going to kill Nick Chubb is because, man, that's Nick Chubb. So I don't think anybody is really going to get on Nick Chubb like that. When you look up hard-nosed blue-collar football player, there's probably a picture of Nick Chubb staring at you. Guy doesn't really put the ball on the ground too much. It was just, this was a very inopportune time, to fumble the ball, unfortunately for Nick Chubb and the Cleveland Browns, as well as the Cleveland Browns fans. But one of the things that I did note there was, will you start to say that, Nick Chubb is washed at this point? I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Because here in Cleveland, Browns fans, they're quick to, and Browns media as well, Browns fans and Browns media, they're quick to call somebody washed, especially when they don't like them. But when they like somebody, whether they're washed or not, they'll keep making up excuses for them. But when they don't like you, very first thing you do that's not good, oh, you're washed. He's washed. He doesn't have it anymore. He's washed. He's washed. Get him out of here. He's washed. So I was just wondering, like, will they do that to him? Even though I highly doubt it, because Nick Chubb has a certain level of respect in the city of Cleveland that some people work all their lives to attain and still don't have it. Nick Chubb is probably respected, like with the likes of a Bernie Kosar or Jim Brown, or even a Josh Cribbs, so to speak. Those guys all get tons of respect in the city of Cleveland. Unfortunately, like I say, Nick Chubb ends up fumbling. We end up getting, there's a stat that they end up giving around this time in the game, where at this particular point, the Browns have 5 first downs, but 4 giveaways. So you have one, at this point in the game, you have 1 more first down than you have turnovers. So at this point, we're just struggling. I mean, to get first downs at this point. Struggling to even get 10 yards. At about the 10-minute, 45-second mark of the third quarter, we got a 2nd and 2. We do a fake handoff. Winston loses yardage on this play. Again, we saw stuff like this, and we saw abysmal numbers like this, when Watson was the QB. In all fairness, though, I did make note, as soon as they showed that stat, and we had this 2nd and 2 abysmal play, we did end up getting 2 first downs promptly afterwards. very quickly afterwards. We ended up getting 2 first downs immediately afterwards. Not saying much because that's still 7 first downs to 4 giveaways. But I did want to make that note. One of the other notes that I made, we were doing a lot of underneath stuff. A lot of our fans were complaining about Deshaun Watson. Oh, he's not throwing the ball down the field. He doesn't see it. He can't make the throws. He doesn't even see it. He's always checking the ball down. He's a check down, Charlie. But what I noticed is that we was running a lot of underneath stuff. Looked like the same stuff we was kind of doing with Watson. You know, and in some ways I almost question, like, well, was Watson seeing certain things where he was like, if I throw this pass down there, it's like, I kind of see the guy, but I'm kind of putting the ball in harm's way if I throw this pass. And I'm wondering, you know, if that's the thing with Jameis. Jameis has no conscience. He's going to chuck it. And it kind of almost seemed in this game, because he had been throwing so many interceptions, it seemed like he's the same thing that was with Watson kind of started to creep into Jameis's mind. Like, wow, yeah, I see it, but I'm not so confident in making this throw. It may wind up being an interception. And one thing about Jameis's interceptions, there haven't really been, outside of the Nick Chubb, there haven't been any, oh, well, it bounces off of the receiver. It's like, no, these interceptions are throwing it and it goes straight to the defender. Like, so that was one of the things that I noticed as well. We run a lot of underneath stuff. All right, fast forward to about 7 minutes and 34 seconds remaining in this third quarter. Winston gets a strip sack fumble. Think we may have ended up recovering that. However, if we did, I believe we ended up punting. However, Kansas City ended up getting the ball back. And this kind of sounds repetitive because it is. The defense holds yet again. They do not allow the Kansas City Chiefs to get any points off of this debacle with the strip sack and having to get the ball back. So at this point, I'm thinking to myself, how much holding can the defense honestly do? I mean, wow, against the defending Super Bowl champions and Patrick Mahomes, the GOAT quarterback of his generation, at least. He may be the GOAT of all time when it's all said and done, but definitely for his generation, hands down. I'm thinking, like, how much can you expect from the defense? They're doing phenomenal at this point, if you ask me. So here we go. Fast forward, about 4 minutes to go in the third. We have 1st and 10. Jameis Winston gets sacked. It's kind of the same thing that was happening when Watson was the quarterback. Like I said, all that climbing the pocket and all those. There's only so much of that that's going to, like, help the offensive line. There's only so much of that that's going to be that. Like, this catalyst for poor offensive line blocking. So he gets sacked. We turn a 1st and 10 to a 2nd and 23. But fortunately for us, we end up getting a huge touchdown run by Jerome Ford, which I credit to not just Jerome Ford, but I mainly credit that touchdown to our wide receivers. Great blocking. Absolute stellar blocking by the wide receivers. It was Jerry Jeudy and maybe Elijah Moore. I know it was Jerry Jeudy. I know Jerry Jeudy was one of them. But extremely great blocking by our wide receivers to allow Jerome Ford to be able to hit that edge and take it to the house for a touchdown. And I also noticed when we came out to kick the extra point, we finally replaced the kicker. Good job. Good job. Because that was the one guy that when everything was going bad, nobody was kind of calling for his, job. The same way they were calling for Watson's job, they should have been calling for his job. And then they noticed once they took Watson out, the guy kept missing kicks. So finally, we replaced him. He made his extra point. Great job, whoever you are, new kicker. Good job, man. Way to make the extra point. Kansas City gets the ball back, and the defense holds yet again. Yep, defense holds yet again. So we get the ball back. First down, I believe. I believe it was an almost interception that was thrown by Jameis Winston. Then with about a minute and 53 left in the third, Winston takes a sack, blown up play. Play was just blown up from the start. Again, not really the greatest of blocking by the offensive line. Has nothing to do with the quarterback standing in the pocket or climbing the pocket. Has nothing to do with that. Line has to block better. That's what has to happen. Line has to block better. So play was just blown up. Then you get intentional grounding and a punt. However, fortunately for the Browns, even with all of that confusion and congestion there and that failure on that particular drive, the defense holds yet again. Broken record. Defense keeps holding. Defense is playing outstanding, in my opinion. This is defending Super Bowl champions and the GOAT of this generation. Defense holds again. Stops the Kansas City offense with about 5 seconds left to go in the third. So you're still in this game. By all means, you're still in this game. As poorly as you've played up until this point, the defense has allowed you to remain in this football game. Fast forward to the fourth quarter, with about 13 minutes and 20 seconds remaining in the fourth quarter. We first pitch a screen that gets big yardage. So, here you go. This may be your chance to strike here and, get it down to a 1-score game with tons of time remaining in the fourth quarter. Nice screen, gets big yardage on it. And then, unfortunately, Jameis Winston throws another interception. So you got, you had your drive going. You can start to gather some belief. Maybe we can close the gap here, get it down to a 1-score game, and who knows, we may be able to upset the defending Super Bowl champions. Unfortunately, Winston does pretty much what he's been doing the entire time that he took over as the starter and threw yet another interception. At this point, I was thinking to myself, we probably don't need to see any more Jameis Winston. I had tons of debates with Browns fans, made a couple of videos about the contradictions in Browns media where, they're like, oh, it's fun to watch, though. At least it's fun watching when Jameis is the quarterback. And I was making the argument, losing is never fun. For me, losing is never fun to watch. So you could throw for 500 yards if we ended up losing that game. To me, that wasn't fun watching. I didn't have fun watching that because we lost. Like, losing is never fun to me in any aspect. Being a part of it, watching it, seeing it. Like, if I'm tied to this, if I'm invested in this and I want this team to win, if we lose, nothing about that was fun to me. To me, that's a loser's mentality. Oh, yeah, we lost, but we had fun. Like, that's a loser's mentality, in my opinion. As a winner, if you have a winning mentality, losing could never be fun. Nothing about losing could ever be fun. Like, nothing about it could be fun. Absolutely nothing. So I was thinking to myself, at this point, we probably don't really need to see any more Jameis Winston. Because if we do, we're just going to keep seeing interceptions. That's not a myth. That's a fact. It is what it is. And I've also made a note to myself. I'm kind of like, well, what exactly is the offense doing? Like, what are you doing at this point? What are you guys doing? Like, what are you doing? Offense looked abysmal when Stefanski was calling the plays and Watson was your quarterback. offense still looks abysmal with Dorsey calling the plays and Winston as your quarterback. And when Winston threw this interception, I also made note where, because I had somebody, Quincy Carrier, say before, after the Baltimore game, you don't see this frustration on sidelines anymore. You don't see receivers throwing their helmets or this or that or that. Yeah, actually, we did this game. Once Winston throws this interception here, I made note that they do a cut scene to Ken Dorsey up in the booth. Guy takes his headset off and slams it in frustration. Like, man, what's going on here? Like, what is this? What's going on? What are we doing? Like, what are we doing here? What is going on? Like, so you kind of got to question, like, what's up with the offense? Like, what is going on with the offense? Just period. Because we did so much blaming of the quarterback, but we switched quarterbacks and play callers. Offense still looking abysmal. However, even with this interception, the defense holds again. Yet again. Way to go, defense. Way to go, man. Way to go. Because it couldn't have been me. I would have been stopped playing D. I'd have been like, you know what, man, I'm cool. What is we going to get them the ball back for? So they can throw another interception? So they can fumble? Like, what is I'm tackling people for? Shoot, if we make a punt, we might not even be able to field the punt. He might muff the punt, and then we right back on the field. Man, I'm cool. I ain't talking about. So great job, defense. Way to go, guys. Way to go. Sidebar. Pat Mahomes actually ended up getting hurt, I think, on a 4th and 3 play or something like that. That was like a sidebar, because I had kind of said jokingly in previous episodes, I had kind of said, I was making a joke, but I was kind of serious. I was like, the Browns could possibly win this game due to just by default, by Kansas City Chiefs being like, wait a minute, hold up. We playing the Browns in Cleveland? Oh, yeah, I'm not going. Pat, you going? Pat, you plan on going to Cleveland? I don't know, Patrick. Hey, man, how many games we won? Oh, yeah. So, they need to win more than we do. Like, we don't need to win. Like, Pat, you sure you want to go to Cleveland, bro? I don't even think Taylor Swift came. Like, that should let you know, too. Like, Taylor Swift ain't even come. You know what I'm saying? So, it's funny because I was like, you don't want to go, and then next thing you know, you get hurt playing the Browns. Like, who want to get hurt playing the Cleveland Browns? Who wants to get hurt playing the Browns? So anyway, I made note of that. It kind of got banged up a little bit. So this kind of gives you even more of a inkling of hope of a window. Like, man, we could still kind of pull this game off. Patrick Mahomes might not come back out here. So at this point, we sub DTR in at about the 7-minute, 50-second mark of the 4th quarter. Even though I understood why, I was kind of like, the way this Jameis Winston bandwagon had been just tooting along, why switch quarterbacks now? I thought Jameis Winston was give him an extension. Give him a 3-year extension right now. Don't wait. Somehow that turned into, hey, dude, you got to get benched because you're throwing too many interceptions. We're going to put DTR in, who I think is just as terrible as any other terrible quarterback you think of. I think he's just bad. I don't want to hate on the kid. I'm just judging on what I've seen whenever he's gone out there. And whenever he's gone out there, I haven't really seen anything good as far as him throwing the ball. He seems to be good being mobile, using his legs. But to me, that's about it. You can't run quarterback draws the whole game. So DTR comes in. Like I said, about 7 minutes, 50 seconds left to go in the 4th. We had 2 illegal formations. So at this point of the season, what's so crazy is we can't even get lined up correctly. At this point of the season, you can't even get lined up correctly. What's going on with the offense? You can't even get lined up correctly? This is not something that, this has been happening the entire time that Stefanski has been the coach. I'm going to get into that stuff in the next video. But this isn't something that just it's this year. No, this has been the entire time that we've had this head coach. We can't even get lined up right. We always get illegal formation, illegal shift, illegal man downfield. Like, so 2 illegal formations. And oh, okay. All right. So on anyway, the offense doesn't do anything. Patrick Mahomes, because this is where my fault. My notes was a little jumbled up. Patrick Mahomes actually wanted to come back in the game for this drive after the DTR drive doesn't do anything. Patrick Mahomes actually wants to come back in the game. You see him on the side getting taped up and everything like that, like he normally does, ready to go back in. I'm ready to go because that's just kind of player that he is. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to get back out here. And to me, what it looked like they kind of stopped him. Like, they like, whoa, hey, you're not going back out there. You done already tweaked yourself against the Browns? No, sir, we're not sending you back out there. We're playing the Browns. We'll let Carson Wentz have a go at it. So for me, that's even more of like a slap in the face because they like, we can beat you with Carson Wentz. We don't trust your offense to get these 14 points, man. We don't trust it. We don't believe you can do it. So you know what? Carson Wentz, go ahead. Just don't turn the ball over, Carson Wentz. But go ahead and get on out there, Carson Wentz. And who knows last time we saw Carson Wentz actually playing in an NFL football game. And they decided to send that man out there. To me, that was a slap in the face. That was basically laughing at you. Like, what? We'll put Carson Wentz out there. Who cares? Because mind you, the game really isn't over at this point. Like, the game's not over. You're only down 2 scores. So the game is not over at this point. There's still about 5 minutes left to go in the game, maybe a little more. So the game is not over. So needless to say, Carson Wentz doesn't do anything. We end up getting the ball back with a puncher's chance, trying to tie the game, maybe send it into overtime. You're at home. Who knows what could happen, that kind of thing. But with about 1 minute and 20 seconds or so to go in the fourth quarter, Dorian Thompson-Robinson does the Jameis Winston, and actually, you know what? I can't even say he does the Jameis Winston. He does himself, because that's what DTR does too. Like, that's what he does too. If I'm not mistaken, this year his stats in very, very, very limited play, but his stats are 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Mind you, very, very limited play. I have to put that in there. But even still, in limited play, I'd rather you have no touchdowns, no interceptions. You got no touchdowns, 3 interceptions. That's alarming. So on this last pick that he throws to pretty much end the game, I also made note again because it was made a thing earlier in the year when Watson was the quarterback. You don't see receivers being frustrated and throwing their helmet. After DTR throws this interception, you can see the clear frustration from Jerry Jeudy, where he just kind of throws his hands up like, man, what y'all want me to do with this? What you want me to do with this? What? Come on, man. We can't stop throwing interceptions. What you want me to do? What are we doing? What are we doing at this point? Like, that's what Jerry Jeudy was doing. The same stuff, that was happening when Deshaun Watson was the quarterback. The exact same stuff when Jameis Winston is the quarterback, and the exact same stuff when DTR is the quarterback. It all looks the same. Even down to the QBR. How it was like the single-digit QBR where it was like, oh my God, Watson's putting up numbers that are, just abysmal. We've never seen QBRs this low. You'd have to go back to some of the worst quarterbacking experiences ever to find numbers this low. Jameis Winston's QBR was single digits. It was single digits. So it's not a euphemism. This is 100% accurate. It looked precisely the same as when Deshaun Watson was on the field. And you changed to 2 other quarterbacks after him, only for everything to look exactly the same as it looked when Deshaun Watson was the quarterback. So we certainly beat ourselves in this game against the Kansas City Chiefs because they tried to hand it to us. They tried to hand us a W. And for whatever reason, the Cleveland Browns and Kevin Stefanski, we don't want it. We'll take the loss. So it's my breakdown of the game. We'll go into, like I said, going into the next video, I'll do some dissecting of our, coaching aspects and everything and give my opinion of how we ended up back at square one. Dogs on the couch, signing off.